Aloha, Richard Halverson here. This is ITS128, and we are in Chapter 7. And today we're going to continue covering the sections that have quizzes in them. And the previous video covered quizzes, the first 3 quizzes, and here we're going to cover the second 2 quizzes. And so if we look at where we are here, we are the last quiz covered these 3 sections. The last video covered these 3 sections. This video will cover these 2 sections, and the video after this will cover the rest of the sections. So let's get started. We're in 7.2.4. And let's take a look at the quiz questions while we're at it. This is the quiz for 7.2.4. And the first question is given a playlist that has been defined to be a list. Write an expression that evaluates to a new list containing the elements from index 0 through index 4 in playlist. And we are not going to modify playlist. Okay, that's the first question. The second question is, given that K and J are integers, and we have a list called playlist that has at least J plus 1 elements, and write an expression that evaluates to a new list containing all the elements from the one indexed at K through the one indexed at J. We need to assume that K is less than J and not modify the list. Okay, that's the second question. The third question is, given that K and J are non-negative integers and the list has at least J elements, write an expression that evaluates to a new list containing all the elements from K through J minus 1. Okay. Looks like it's going to be one smaller than this. And so question 4 is, given a playlist, write a statement that makes the first 3 elements be these 3 values. The first 3 elements of the playlist to be these 3 values, regardless of what they are at now. Regardless of what they are now. Question 5 is, given 2 lists, L1 and L2, write a statement that replaces the elements of L1 from 5 to 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8, get all of the elements of L2. So we have L1, and then we're going to replace 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to replace those elements with all of the elements in L2. All right. Question 6 is, given a list called worst offenders, and it's got at least 6 elements in it, write a statement that defines a new list called lesser offenders, and it contains all the elements from index 5 of worst offenders. So from 5 on up to the end, those elements are defined in a new list called worst offenders. Called lesser offenders. So, all right. So, of all of the worst offenders, we are saying that from 5 on, we're gonna take those elements and store them into a new list called lesser offenders. All right, question 7. Given that K refers to an integer that is non-negative in plist 1, and plist 1 has at least K plus 1 elements, write a statement that defines a new list, plist2, that contains all the elements from K up. Okay, and do not modify plist1. All right, so this is all about splicing. Okay, so let's go take a look at what the textbook says on this. All right, so with slicing, I think we might have covered some of this. An index operator allows you to select a single element. The slicing operator lets you return a list. Okay, a list, and you can define the list using this, and so so we take up an already existing list and we're going to splice it, and this can be the definition of the splice. It's going to go from this element all the way up to this element -1, and we're going to step through the list defined by this value called step. So, and if step is not valued, of course, is not defined, of course, then the step value is just going to be 1. By default, the step is 1. So, for example, if we have a list that looks like this, and we want to define a subset of the list, it's going to be, let's say it's from 2 to 4. That's going to include 0, 1, 2, 3, but not 4, because it doesn't include the top one. So it's only going to include 0, 1, 5, and 7. And that's what we have here. And if we have a list, this one, which is going to go from 0 up to but not including 5. So that means it's going to include 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. However, we're going to step by 2. So we're going to skip every other one. So we'll have 0. We'll skip 1. We'll have 2. We'll skip 3. And we'll have 4, and that's it, because we only go from 0 to 5 minus 1. So that's going to be this value, and this value. And lo and behold, that's what we got here. If we want to refer to the beginning or the end and we want those to be included, we have a blank before the colon, which indicates the first element and including the first element. And if we have a blank at the end, we mean the last element including the last element. So for example, this one, list 3 colon nothing, 3 colon blank, would be from element index 3, which is 0, 1, 2, 3. It's this one all the way to the end. And that's indicated by this blank here. So it's these 3 elements. And that's what we see here. So we see this is the same as this, and this is the same as this. Makes sense. This, of course, is the last index value plus 1, because the last index value is going to be the length of the list minus 1, because we start counting at 0. All right, and then here's other ways. -1 means third from the end, which would be -1, -2, -3, and we don't include that. So from 1 to -3 would be just these 2, which is what we see here. All right, very good. Let's see what's next. This is from 1 to 3. All right. So first quiz. 7 questions. We've seen these questions already. Given a playlist that is defined to be a list, write an expression that evaluates to a new list containing the elements 0 up through 4. So we're talking about playlist. Oops. Talking about playlist from 0 up through 4. Well, that's not going to do it, because that's only going to go up to 3, because remember, we don't include the last one. So we've got to do something like make it so it includes 4, something like that. Given that K and J are integers, non-negative, playlists, they're going to be indexes, and it's got at least J plus 1 elements. And write an expression that evaluates to a new list containing all the elements from the one at K through J. So it's K through J, including J. So let's just copy this. And it is K through J. But this does not include J, so we better add 1 here to make it include J. Something like that. All right, same thing. K and J, non-negative integers, and playlist. And here we are going, it's got at least J elements. Here we're going from K through J minus 1. K through J minus 1. So we're doing from K through J minus 1. So it's not that, because that would be J minus, that would go, remember we do not include the upper bound. So we want to include J minus 1 because we want to include J minus 1. So J minus 1 plus 1 is something that looks like that. All right, given that playlist has been defined, write a statement that makes the first 3 elements of playlist be this. All right, so I don't recall learning this. I don't recall covering this in the previous. Let me go, we're on question 4. I'm gonna step out and go to plus, minus, traversing. Well, we're gonna use plus, that's in the next one, slicing. Did we have any assignments in here? Okay, here we go. This is one of them. In this case, we have this list, and we are going to say that list 1 to 3 is now equal to this. So we're going to say list 1 to 3, which is 1, 2, but not including 3. 1:3 is 1 and 2, but does not include 3. So it's these 2. So we're going to set, okay, so these 2, that is this. But we're going to replace this with this. And so what happens is the 3 and the 5 get replaced with the 9 and the 8. And sure enough, the 3 and the 5 have been replaced with the 9 and the 8. We've got the 2, and then we do not have the 3 and the 5. It's replaced with the 9 and the 8. And then we have the 2, 33, and 21 right here. Okay, so this is how you assign, this is how you replace. So in this list, we're going to replace these elements, 1, 2, not 3, 1, 1, 2, not 3, with 9, 8. So that's the replacement thing. It's the same as this, yes. So that's how we do this replacing thing. That's enough. That's all we need. So let's go back to question 4. And we are simply going to replace the first 3 elements of playlist. Copy, paste. The first 3 elements are 0, 3, because it's going to be 0, 1, and 2. Doesn't include the 3. So 0 This is a colon. These languages straight. So 0, 1, and 2 are going to be assigned this value of this. Copy, paste, and of course we're going to put a comma there. So something like that. Question 5. Given L1 and L2 are lists, write a statement that replaces the elements of L1 from 5 through 8. Okay, that would be 5 colon 9, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we skip the 9, so with the elements with all of L2. So we've got L1 from 5 colon. What's the matter with this binary typing? Okay, from 5 colon 9, because it's 5 up to and including 8. So we put 9 here because we don't include the 9, but we include up to just before the 9. So we are going to replace L1 5 colon 9 with all of L2, something like that. All right, question 6. We have a list called worst offenders. It's got at least 6 elements, so it's got at least 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Write a statement that defines a new list called lesser offenders. So we got a new list called lesser offenders, and it's going to contain all the elements from index 5 of worst offenders all the way up to the end. So it's going to be something like this. Let's go. Worst offenders from 5 on, colon, and as you know, a space there goes all the way to the end and includes the last element. So it's going to look something like that. All right, what's next? Last question of this quiz. K refers to an integer, and plist, we're going to write a statement that defines, so plist has at least k plus 1. Write a statement that defines plist2 as a new list. I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Plist2 as a new list that contains all the elements from k all the way up. Well, this just seems pretty easy. Plist2, let's get going here. Plist2 is equal to plist1 from k on. K colon on. Gotta do lowercase k here. K colon on to the end. So I'd say it's something like that. All right, very good. Let's go to the next quiz here. All right, now we're gonna cover the plus. This is for lists now. So plus will concatenate 2 lists, or attach one list onto the end of the next of another list. The asterisk will repeat. You can put the asterisk in front of a list, and it will repeat that list for as many times as is indicated. There's you have another operand there which says how many times to repeat. And of course, the in and not in operators, we used those in the previous quiz. This tests to see if an element is in a list, and this will return true if a particular element is not in the list. So the plus sign is called the concatenation operator, and the asterisk is called the repetition operator. So for example, if we have something called list 1 that looks like this, and list 2 that looks like this, we can concatenate them. List 1 plus list 2 is just going to be 2, 3, 1, 9, which is what we have here. 2, 3, 1, 9. Let's say we've got list 1, which is this, 2, 3, and we want list 4 to equal list 1 3 times. So it's 2 and 3, 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. All right. This tests that in operator, which we did earlier, which we used for the last video. This says, is 2 in the list? It is. Is 2 not in the list? It's false that 2 is not in the list. 2 is in the list. So it is true that 2 is in the list, and it is false that 2 is not in the list. See that? All right. Got a quiz here? Okay. 5 questions. First question. Given list P1 and P2, two lists, write an expression that evaluates to a list that is the concatenation of these two lists. Well, that's just kind of dumb. Something like that. What's next? P1 and P2 are lists. We got a new list called P3, and it's the concatenation of P1 and P2. Oh boy, these are too easy. All right, what's next? Given P list, write an expression that evaluates to true if 3 is in P list. Something like that. Given that K refers to an integer and playlist is a list, write an expression that evaluates to true if K is in playlist. So if K is in playlist, well, that's easy. I'm not even going to write it down. A variable is called current members. We have a variable. So this is a list, and this is an element or a singular and scalar. It's a single value, not a list. Write code that assigns true to a variable is a number. So we got a variable called is a number, and that is equal to true if member ID is in current members. Well, so it's is a member equals this in this. Oops. Is a member equals member ID in current members. All right, let's see. I think that covers the next two quizzes. That was quiz 7.2.4, 7 questions, and 7.2.5, which is another 5 questions. So I'm going to close this one up here and start a new video for the remaining 2 quizzes. Thanks for watching.